24 hours ago, I wanna be sedated. No, like, really, I wanna be sedated. As you know from previous videos, I'm in recovery from a lot of things. And over the years, I've discovered a lot of tools that have helped me on my journey. And another one that I don't talk very much about is medication. So I don't talk much about the use of medication because everybody has their own opinion on it. So today, I'm not going to share with you my opinion. I'm going to share my experience in the hopes that it helps you to better make decisions that you need to make for yourself. And one of the first things I learned was don't diagnose yourself. I was convinced that I had ADHD because it was so difficult for me to focus and to get things done. And so I went to my therapist and she referred me to a psychiatrist. Now, for those of you who don't know, psychiatrists usually focus on medicinal management, where a psychologist is usually focusing on psychotherapy. Anyways, I walked into his office, I sat down, and I told the guy, I have ADHD. He asked me a couple questions, he wrote me a prescription for Adderall, and the truth is, it worked for a while. But what I found was that my productivity was still being stifled by my anxiety, and the medication was actually making my anxiety worse. And so without any direction from anyone else, I stopped seeing that psychiatrist, and I made the decision to stop taking the Adderall, cold turkey. Do not ever do that. And for me, when I went through withdrawal from Adderall, I was tired and exhausted all the time. So here I was with no medication, and I was still doing all this work on myself, trying to use all these tools, but I still felt like I was struggling more than I really needed to be. And I felt like my mind, my head was just broken. So this brings me to my next point. Find your doctor. So I started going to a therapist again, and I remember talking to her saying, listen, I'm really struggling with getting things done, and I had tried medication for ADHD before. I'm almost positive that I have ADHD. And so this therapist suggested me to another psychiatrist, and I sat down, I had a meeting with them, and I told them, I have ADHD, let's do something about it. And instead she said, no, we're going to take some tests, and I'm going to have real in-depth conversation with you about it. So my experience this time was that the doctor really wanted to know who I was. And so I filled out a lot of forms. I answered a lot of questions about my family history of mental health, my history of mental health, and there was a lot to write. And this leads me to my next point. Keep an open mind. I was so convinced that I knew what my diagnosis was, that I knew that I had ADHD. And instead, after taking some of the tests that she had me take and reading the forms, she explained to me that what I was really struggling with was an anxiety disorder, and that I was also still moving through some PTSD from my childhood and then from losing my brother to suicide, and that a lot of the symptoms of ADHD are very similar to someone who's living with anxiety. And so as a result of that, I decided to start trying a low dose of Prozac. And the big difference for me was that I was not doing this alone. When I first started, I still continued to see her every 2 weeks, and I would give her an update on how the medication was making me feel. And it was a very, very slow process. And this brings me to my next point that my doctor reminded me of, which was that every body is different. And so it meant that I had to continually have a dialogue with my psychiatrist around the dosage and what was working, and really be able to gauge where I was at. And my doctor had this amazing analogy that I think really makes a lot of sense. When you go to a rock concert and the music and the bass is so loud, you can't even hear the lyrics. But when the music gets turned down, it all starts to feel like it's in balance. And that's how she explained medication can work. Our heads can be so loud, but the medication can just quiet some of that down so that we can actually hear what is really going on inside our heads. You might ask, like, well, did it work? Did it cure you? And that's the most important thing, is that medication is not a cure. Medication is a tool. It's a tool that has allowed me to go back and work with these other aspects of my life. It helped me pick up the other tools that were so important to me and start using them again. And now the question is, how do I know that the medication worked? It's been almost 2 years now that I've been on the medication. And what I can tell you is that I still have anxiety at times. A lot. But it's not as bad as what it used to be. I feel like I'm better able and capable to move through my feelings of anxiety. I have also realized that I've accomplished a lot in the last 2 years. That the truth is my anxiety really got in the way of it before. With my creative productivity, I finally have been starting to make content consistently over the past 2 years. I had a really bad breakup that didn't destroy me, but I was able to move through the anxiety without any major breakdown. Those are just some of the little things that I have gotten out of taking medication. And that is another important aspect of taking medication, is that there are no quick fixes. And to be willing to sit in the process and work through it. There is still a lot of stigma around mental health, and there's a lot of stigma around the act of taking medication or the act of not taking medication. And what's most important is that you continue to find what works for you. It's not about whether you're good or bad. It's not about whether you're strong or weak. It's about just taking care of yourself in the best way that you can. And being willing to explore and try different things until you feel comfortable with you. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. In the comments below, I'd love to know what you think, and make sure to hit the bell notification so you'll know whenever I post a new video for you. And if you're interested in getting more support, feel free to check out my Patreon page where I offer coaching services, and it's a great way for you to support the channel, and also I can support you, especially if you're looking for a therapist and psychiatrist. I'm happy to share my experience with you as I went through that journey. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you all later. I wanna be sedated. That's a weird ending.